Hello, my name is Rob Lawrence, and I'm one of the members of Tri-City Trail Riders Club as part of Great Lakes Four-Wheel Drive Association. And we set out on May 9th, Friday, May 9th. As part of our club, we maintain the North Branch route, North Branch ORV route, just east of Otsego Lake in northern Michigan. This is a trail we've been maintaining for the last few decades, and this year we knew we were in for quite a bit of work after the historic ice storms that hit northern Michigan at the end of March in 2025. I'm just going to walk through today a little bit of the experience that we had from doing our trail maintenance or our attempted trail maintenance, and just try to provide a little bit of details around what we encountered. We set out knowing we were going to have a lot of work. Basically had met with a small crew at the parking lot in Old State Route or Old State Road. Parked there and loaded with chainsaws and brush clearing materials and headed south on the trail. And we're pretty quickly met with some impassable trails. We were pretty fearful as we left the parking lot. There was no road tracks on the trail, and usually this is a pretty well used route. And not seeing any trail tracks and actually seeing grass growing up on the trail was a little bit alarming. So we were met with a number of these sections, just like this picture here shows, that some trees that had to be cut that were completely across the road, as well as just general brushing that had made it impassable. The small side by side that we were leveraging here in the picture, can make it around some of the brush piles, but larger vehicles like my dually truck would have been not able to pass in some of those areas. But either way, these sections would be quite long, usually a tenth to a quarter mile. Usually when we'd have down debris, it would take significant effort for us to clear that and get it off into the woods. The other issue in getting in the woods is there's significant branches and trees and brush down in the woods. So just trying to find places to push the brush to proved to be difficult. The picture you can see here, this is just that same section around the corner after clearing. So you can see the large amount of brush. We've not able to spend a lot of time focusing on all the small brush on the roads, just because we're just trying to get it passable. Again, there's a very significant amount of brush and down debris across all the roads. As we continued along the route, we got to some of the red pine plantations, and you can see from the picture here some of those that were down. This was the first start of that section. This again went for probably another tenth to a quarter mile of just continuous down trees and brush. These proved to be a little more difficult than some of the poplar or aspen plantations because these are all very when they broke down were green. So they are still full of sap and very heavy. So it's not just a simple grab and pull that across, manhandling. And a lot of them had to be broken into, cut into smaller sections so that they could be, moved. This would be aided by having some machinery, maybe something that can, grab and move those items. But these small tops of these trees were significantly heavy for 1, 2, or 3 people to try to move together, just because they are so green. And just another view of that same trail, as I mentioned, right, continues on. So we just see significant amounts of tops. These ones aren't too huge, but again, they're green, so very heavy, especially with all the needles on there, to try to move them out of the way. So we had to spend time with chainsaws, cutting them up into smaller sections, and then trying to drag them off the trail. And so, just clearing out this section of the trail here was a few hours, and only a small percentage of the trail. And we got to this point where the trail became completely impossible, and we ended up turning around here because the work was very significant and to a point that was really, in our opinion, somewhat dangerous for the equipment that we had. As you can see from this picture here, the road actually became wet. I'll get to that in a moment, what's causing some of that. So you would be working in water, The trees were much larger in diameter. We had, some trees that were, 12, 15 inches in diameter. Maybe some even larger. And as you see from farther back in the picture, there was a number of trees that were hung up into each other. And so, danger in going in, trying to work through in that brush with limbs that are still attached or hanging in a tree, and danger for those to come down as, someone is in there cutting. That also poses part of the concern as well, right? When we have multiple individuals and crew working together in this, is that as you're cutting, you really can't have individuals in there pulling the brush away, and so you have to go in and cut. One person's cutting and then have to wait, finish cutting and then come back and have individuals clear, and then find out you need to cut more stuff. It's just really tedious work with just trying to use manpower. So like I said, that we ended up stopping at this point here just because it was really unsafe. This is another shot looking a little bit further around that corner, and it just continues on. We walked it a little ways. This went well over a quarter mile, maybe into a half a mile of just continuous large brush and trees across that, as well as very significant wet areas across the trail, some of that portion being a foot or more in depth of water. So at that point, we decided to come back around the trail and enter from the east side. So we went about 4 or 5 miles up around to the east and work our way back to that section. Again, just met with lots of down debris. Here's a section here with jack pines. So jack pine stand that had gone down. Looking a little bit more into that section. Lots of brush, lots of large jack pine trees in there. These also proved to be very difficult because they were green and they were heavy. So again, they had to be cut into small sections. A lot of times you take the limbs off of the trees themselves, so you're having to drag limbs and then large round sections of the trees. Just tedious work that takes a very significant amount of time to clear a trail, especially a trail of this width. As you can see from this final picture, so this was after that was cleared. So where the side by side was parked there, again, maybe this was maybe a tenth of a mile, maybe just under a little tenth of a mile. A good hour time just to clear this short section of the trail. And again, we maintained 26 miles of trail. Hitting these pockets proved to be very difficult, and we cleared many of these pockets. So as we worked up through that trail and went back towards the section where we stopped previously, we actually came to a small section of the trail that the culvert had been plugged, but also the beavers, as you can see on the trail here on the right-hand side of the photo, the beavers actually started building a dam on top of the ORV road. So this grade was improved in this area. There's historically been water on the left-hand side of this photo. There's been a kind of a small pond or wet area there. This road had been improved with the decrease or really limit of traffic in the area from the storm. Right, this section of trail was impassable until we cleared it on the 9th. There was no activity in there, so the beavers have had that all to themselves and have started to put that in there. This section here that they built up in this dam was probably a good foot tall, in that area, and significant flooding over the road. And as well as I mentioned, right, this culvert, so this main drain culvert, you can see the pond side there on the top side of the photo, had been plugged by the beavers. Worked a little bit to just try to understand what was in there, pulled a few of the sticks out. It's got a little bit of flow of the water going in there back through that. But, no doubt we actually saw beavers when we went through here leaving the area, so they'll be back and we'll, we're making repairs to that area. So with no traffic through there, we totally would guess that they're going to continue to work on their operations there. Inside that that culvert, as I mentioned, right, you can see this here. It is completely plugged full of sticks, and on the other side of this, it's just packed full of clay and mud. So there is no water flow flowing through that culvert, and so that's making that section of trail We cleared this part. We came back around and cleared this section. But up to this section where that water, that kind of creek flows through, has become impassable. And because of that flooding, it has also flooded the trail back towards the south, and that's what I believe is causing the water that we ran into on the other side into that section. So, there's a good portion of the trail right now that is completely impassable, both because of the large amount of downed trees as well as the effects of the beavers building the dam across the road and plugging that culvert, which is causing significant flooding across the trail. Yeah, the trail goes up through that way, through there, past that brush, turns left. Beavers have started to pile up brush along the side of the road, so the road goes right through here. This is the culvert, one of them. The water's not flowing there. You see it's higher on this side. And the same thing going on here. We got the culvert here. Look at the water level on this side. And again, the beavers have been down here building up along this road. So we just came in the road here, and they're building that completely up. At this point, we then backtracked back to the east again to hopefully make it back up to Old State Road. At this point, we've spent almost an entire day out there. And we made it a little bit farther until we got close to Old State Road and were met with a significant blockage of downed trees. So the forest type changed again, and we moved from a kind of an older oak that had been cleared, so oak trees that had been cleared section, so just small oak dead debris that was in there, and then moved into this red pine planting. And those red pines just were very destructive, and we basically got to a point where it was just beyond our ability with the chainsaws that we had to make any forward progress. So the road goes up, turns here. There's trees down across the road as far as the eye can see. Up around that way. Old State Road starts to run parallel out here. And back the trail here, we have another 15 trees down back this way. That's where we're stopped. And the size of these trees that are down are pretty good diameter trees. They're taking a significant amount of time for us to cut, and some of these are a bit beyond our capabilities. We have some that are hung up in trees here as well, but posed to be unsafe without the right skills to take down. The trail here is just completely blocked. We've cleaned out probably about 15 sections today across the trail like this. Not this bad, but where this trail was completely blocked with 6-8 trees. But this section just is way too much. And so at that point, with our when we assessed on the trail, pretty much the rest of that trail had a number of pockets like that that make it impassable up to Old State Road at this time. It's after we spent 9 hours on the trail. We had covered maybe 20% of the trail total. At that point, we've pulled back out of doing the assessment and maintenance that we had, and just looking for further guidance from our DNR trail tech representatives.